Greetings, colleagues, friends, listeners. Welcome. This is the first show in the series, and the series is called Commercial Business Academy Show, and we are putting the spotlight on accountability in the workplace. That is the theme of the show. I have got friends of mine, colleagues, business associates of Cometa, Dolores Mashishi and George Mutenda Zamera as the subject matter experts that are going to engage us on this very important topic, very relevant to our place of work, or whatever place you practice your professional work, even private relationships in the communities. This is the mind, the journey, the destiny. We apply our mind to the journey that takes us to our destiny. We inform and entertain, develop and educate, empower and support, associate and network. That's the idea. And we are going to be empowered indeed. Greetings, George and Dolores, and Happy New Year, by the way. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam. It's good. It's good to be back. It feels like January has been a very long year of its own. But yes, Happy New Year, and it's good to be back. And good evening to the listeners, to the friends of Cometa, and everybody who's listening tonight.
Yeah, good evening to everyone. Happy New Year to everyone. And hopefully you've done and dusted your goals and you are implementing now. And before you can blink, the year is done. So let's get on with it and achieve those goals.
Beautiful. Beautiful. How opportune it is to start with a topic like this one. And Dolores, you were telling me that yes, this plays itself at the workplace, but it actually is applicable across all the fronts, all the spaces. Tell me more. As you introduce yourself, of course, to the listeners, I know you. They don't know who you, why you, and where do you come from. But tell us more.
Tell us more. Hey, yes, my name is Dolores, and I'm the founder and the manager of DSM Advisory. It's a niche firm that basically looks at and supports organization and people in the space of HR solutions, specifically in mergers and acquisitions, the integration of people, and more importantly, we do that in a coaching and facilitative way, and I'm an executive coach. And yes, Coach Sam, I remember saying to you this afternoon that this topic is so topical, in the sense that it's not just in the workplace where accountability starts. It actually starts with the individual, and starts in the individual in the sense that wherever you are as a lifestyle, when you run a business, when you run a home, accountability becomes the place where you have to rely on yourself for results. And if you're going to be relying on results for other people, from other people, you need to be able to know yourself, how it looks like, how it feels like, for you, before you can able to say you are accountable for this, you are accountable for this. You as an individual should be able to know what's that's about. What is accountability about?
Wow, beautiful. George?
Yes, my name is George Mutenda Zamera. I'm an executive coach working with executives and leaders based in Johannesburg. I'm an author, facilitator, and I speak on personal development as a speaker. It's great to start with this subject because, as I said earlier, I alluded to the issue of goals. Accountability is what brings success to organizations, to individuals, and it's a great start. And I'm hoping that the takeaways from today will help those who are kind of sitting on the fence in terms of what is this accountability and what does it benefit me. So yes,
That was going to be my next question, George. Do you think everyone understands firsthand when you say we've got to have an accountability at the workplace? Or is it something that perhaps you and Dolores might have to unpack a little bit from your understanding?
Yes, as I said earlier, accountability and responsibility, there are similarities there, and there's some confusion in the market as to what that is. And I think it's very important to start off what is that? And maybe I know Dolores gets very excited about what it is and all that. I would but the journalist then ask you, let's kick off there. What is
Yes. Yes, very important, those two words, because the key around these two words is in the market and in the workplace specifically. It's important that we get the language right at the beginning, from the onset.
Yeah.
And if we interchangeably use whatever you say, you'll get the results of what you say or what you say it to be. So the word accountability and responsibility are two words that are used interchangeably in the workplace and should not. And I just briefly define it in a very easy way, that responsibility is when you take ownership of activities.
Yeah.
So these job roles that you were given at work, that's what you're responsible for. And accountability is when you take ownership of the results.
Wow.
For me, just these two differentiator will be able to be clear in terms of when you're given these tasks to do, it's your responsibility to do them.
Yeah.
And as a leader, when you are accountable for the results, the results could be good or bad, but you are accountable for the overall results of what needs to happen. And that comes up with quite a number of things that we probably will talk about. And that if you register on this program, it will definitely we go deeper and we unpack what are the activities, what are the behaviors that relates to responsibility, what are the behavior that goes with accountability.
And I'm hearing responsibilities task oriented there.
Yeah.
Project.
Yeah. Often people talk about it's important for us to know who's responsible and who's accountable for this thing that we're talking about. Is that something that gets to be negotiated, or your role, either accountability or responsibility, comes with the title or the position or the role?
Well, I suppose the best way would be to kind of give a little example where a manager is tasked with delivering a certain quantity of product, and he assigns his team members individually to produce individual package that will total up to do what he is required to do. So each one of those people has a responsibility to produce quality product, the specs that he's been asked to do. But at the end of the day, when the target isn't met, the manager is the one who faces authority to explain why it hasn't happened.
Yeah.
That's the accountability aspect of it. He's the one who must, shall we use the word face the music? I don't think it's a good word though. But he's the one who must account for why it hasn't happened. Of course, conversely, when things, they overproduce and they load the budget, they go over budget, things are, he's the one who gets all the credit.
Yeah.
But he's the point man who now makes sure he looks after them. I suppose that is the easiest way of putting it, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. You remind me immediately of if we go in organizations and we ask leaders about accountability, they get very excited. They love, they want more of accountability from their people. But if you talk to the people fear accountability.
Yeah.
So there's that dichotomy of who actually is responsible, who is accountable, who is ultimately accountable for this. And for me, that's where we bring the leadership element.
Yeah.
That's where, we bring in the leadership element around, what is accountability in leadership? What is the role of leadership within accountability?
So is that the role of the leader when people are running away from being accountable to bring that into the workplace? And how does the leader go about doing that?
Okay. So I think the starting point, Sam, as with any business objective, is clarity of exactly what we want to achieve.
Yeah.
So as a leader, he must make it very, very clear to the team around the expectations. Mr. Jones, you are going to produce this within this time span, and this is how it will be delivered. It's very clear. And
Yeah.
when you start there, the team individually understand their contribution to the whole.
Yeah.
And most of the difficulties that arise is that fuzziness, the lack of clarity, which obviously results in a kind of non-alignment as to exactly what is required. If you get that right, then that's a huge step towards ensuring that accountability benefits the
It sounds like it's more of a behavior and mindset than really an activity, George. Dolores? Being accountable, having accountability sounds like it's the starting point is more of a mindset and a behavior.
It is a mindset in the sense that clarity. So when we talk about goal clarity, we're talking about clarity in your head. You really understand exactly what you need to do.
Yeah.
That then triggers the actions that you will take to achieve whatever it is the goal is. And so the behaviors will follow the clarity that has been established.
Yeah.
And of course, there will be issues around what role does the leader play, etc. But Dolores may want to talk around the leadership responsibility around getting that accountability to percolate into the team.
Yes. Yes, thanks, George. I mean, Sam, you ask about how does the leader show accountability, right? What is the role of the leader in accountability? And it reminds me at the beginning, I spoke about just how it's feared and how it's loved, right? And usually in accountability, the action around how you treat accountability, I usually call it above the line and below the line. There are above the line actions which are really empowering. That's where the leader is empowering the team. That's where the leader mimic behavior of accountability that he wants to see. That's where the leader creates those feedback loops to make sure that everybody's on the same page. The team is connected. The team is working towards the goal, right? That's what I call the above the line, which is what leaders need to take responsibility and showcase and mimic behavior. And the below the line activity, that's where you see blame. That's where you see, but you were shifting responsibility from one to the other. That's where that clarity was not there in the first place, that George was talking about, right? And that's where the fear around accountability comes. And overall, all of this really, if we need to be honest, is talking about the culture of accountability.
And I hear you saying that the leader actually is the one who shows the way.
Yeah. Who mimics, the leader mimics the behavior. If you, as simple as if you would like the team to be here at 7 o'clock, you be here at 7 o'clock. If you want the team to be, you actually be here at 6 o'clock if you would like the team to be here at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
just as
Yeah.
a silly example, because how people work from home and whatever, but just as a silly example, you mimic the behavior, you show the behavior. And hence at the beginning, we spoke about, before as a leader, before accountability, it needs to start with you. So you as a leader needs to know what accountability looks like and what it feels like, so that when you're going to talk to people about accountability, when you show it, when you demonstrate it, it becomes that analogy of, people will always remember how you make them feel, not what you said, kind of thing. So people will follow in terms of what you do them, what you show them to do.
Share
I
with
think,
us.
can I just go back and say we can't overemphasize the importance of modeling the behaviors that you want your co-workers to exhibit as a leader.
Yeah.
That's really the crux of it. You must model it.
Absolutely.
So, George, if you are called in by a manager who needs help from either coaching or training perspective, and he says to you that I have a problem here, nobody really seems to be wanting to take responsibility and to be accountable, where will you start to put your finger on the problems?
With the leader.
Yeah.
To actually understand his own behavior around this aspect.
So you will say to him, let me start with you to see if you understand what you are asking me to help you with.
Yeah.
Like gentler language, yes, but but the point is to get to understand, is he modeling the behavior that he wants to see from his co-workers? That's huge. And if it's a big yes on that, then we start digging to find out, is it an issue of incompetence? What is it that's holding it back? But he is, in fact, can I give an example? When I was in corporate myself, we had a leader who was obsessed with time. If a meeting was to start at 8, you kind of showed up at 10 to 8. Quarter to 8, whatever. And he modeled it because he would be on time every time without fail. And so everyone, all the followers understood that. And as a result, you actually had a uniformity. Everyone responding to that. Yeah. So that's an example of modeling a behavior.
Yeah, Dolores?
I totally agree. I would start with the leader themselves, to understand exactly that. What is his understanding of accountability himself? How does he understand it? And because the leader will always work from what he knows or they know. They will always work from what they know inside out. So it's important that they understand what you understand by accountability, unpack that for them. Because once they hear about what it is that they would like from their teams, how the battle is done in terms of then we, as George said, we then look at, okay, then what is the issue? Is the issue in clarity for them? So that once they are clear about what it is that you would like as a leader from an accountability perspective, they can ask questions and make it clear for them. Then it becomes clearer for them. Then it takes out all ambiguity of behavior. Yes.
Yeah. In your introductory remarks, you have suggested that it does not necessarily start only at the workplace. Let's talk about that. Can we have a society that creates challenges for the workplace by it having citizens that are not accountable, or societies that is not accountable? Tell me a little bit more about that perspective.
What comes to mind for me now is if we go broader.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a lucky enough to be traveling quite a lot. And if you observe, usually when I travel, and you travel as well, Seb, I'm sure you, George, if you travel and go to a different country, I am usually looking at key things. I look at efficiencies in countries. I look at what works, what doesn't work. And the typical thing, like let's take an example of a transport systems
Yeah.
in other countries. And I've been amazed at how the transport system, the train, can land at exactly the same point it's set on a land when you're in Switzerland, for example.
Switzerland,
just-
Japan, yeah.
It is a marvel to watch. Sometimes I literally just go to the town and I just sit there and just watch this train go, and just to marvel at how this can happen. Because I look at that's where when a society takes pride, takes responsibility, people takes responsibility of what they want to do, and the country just is accountable for things that don't work or work. You know, so usually for me is it if you take it in a society that can work, it's the small things that it starts with individuals, it goes on to teams, it goes on to communities, it goes on to societies. We cannot expect a society to be accountable when individuals are not. That's where it starts. That's where it starts. You peel off this layer, this onion, layer by layer. And unfortunately, that's how other countries that got it right, they just didn't start by just getting it right.
So if we are running a workshop or a training at the workplace, will that then be appropriate for us to have that broader perspective first and find out what kind of societies or perspectives these people are bringing in? And I'm saying this because it seems like you are saying it will be impossible to achieve accountability in the workplace if the society from which we pull our labor force itself is not accountable, not practicing accountability. George?
No, I wouldn't use the word impossible. I've experienced workplaces that function smoothly in an environment that is dysfunctional. It's a culture thing that you develop at the workplace.
Yeah.
But as you bring in new members of staff, you have shall we say, a bigger task to acclimatize them to an environment where everything works.
Yeah.
He is coming from an environment where nothing works.
Yeah.
So the task is harder, but you can achieve it. You cannot, because it's about individuals taking ownership. And I remember Dolores mentioned ownership later. Maybe I'll give Dolores an opportunity to talk about ownership, but it's taking ownership over the commitments and meeting objectives. And so going back to that issue about clarity, the individual comes in from a dysfunctional society. He comes into the functional workplace where goals are clear, expectations are clear. So he can, as I use the word, acclimatize into this environment and actually be very, very useful. And the hope is that the more you can do that with individuals, they can go then and infect the outside environment with their accountability ability.
Yeah.
I mean, oh, sorry, Sam.
Carry on, Dolores.
That is why some organizations have got these things that are called onboarding.
Yes.
Onboarding, I'm not sure what other word they use as well. But the function of these onboarding is exactly that, to begin to inculcate you as a new person in the way that we work in this organization. This is how this organization operates. This is how we behave when things don't work or work. This is how performance is done. These are the expectations. These are the overall goals, and most importantly, here are values.
Oh, yeah, values.
You know, that's the most important, because the values are supposed to be the true north of every organization. And I know all organizations have got values.
Yes.
And in that onboarding, organizations take a lot of time to almost teach the values. They introduce the values. The leadership talks about values. The CEO comes and talks about where these values come from. What do they mean? And then the HR people will just go through a whole process of value drives to talk about, here are the behaviors that are acceptable, here are the behaviors that are not acceptable around these values. So a lot of work gets done around making sure that, for example, accountability is a behavior that gets nurtured and that gets accepted and expected in an organization. So that's how usually organizations do about. And I mean, to just go back to analogy, Sam, of saying the people that comes from society, if they come from a society that is unfortunately not valuing accountability, when they get into the organization, that's where they get a culture shock, and then they get inducted or onboarded into the into the way. So that's usually how it will work. So it's not impossible, and I agree with George. It's not an impossible task. It can happen. We can become an accountable society by using different ways of how we look at it. Yeah.
I hear you implying that. I mean, I'm looking at this course and the modules that are there. It is just really a guideline, but there's more to it than just learning about what accountability is, what are the barriers to it, and all things. I hear you saying that culture is the starting point, values of the organization where these people find themselves, and yeah, and then of course the leadership you mentioned. The other thing is the leader themselves.
Yeah.
That have to play. So I think this is very empowering, because often we want to choke down the content down the throats of people, and people come from these interventions, nothing changed, nothing gained. So you're almost coming from a coaching perspective as well, to say, I'm going to sit with the leader and find out if the things he wants me to teach his people, he himself values them.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I'm so
Carry on.
I'm so happy that when I look at the content of the program as well, there is a module around creating an accountable workplace. And that's really what we're talking about now, what we're referring to now. That's where the culture essence comes into being. I always like to talk about ownership, building ownership, because ownership is also a very critical thing. And when you follow this Simon Sinek talk, Simon Sinek talks about the why.
Yes.
You always have to identify your why. Even those task responsibilities that you would like the people to have, they need to understand why. Why should I be doing a project on digital transformation? What are the benefits? What's in it for the organization? What's in it for me? Why? So the ownership is very important, right from the leadership perspective. When you become accountable, you own that accountability. When you're responsible, you own that responsibility. So ownership is a critical running thread within that culture of accountability that you want to create.
We have we are recommending that anyone that undergoes a program like this, we need to make it mandatory that for that period, as they go through the course, they also have to undergo coaching or mentoring of some sort, or call it a support. In other words, a practical way of actually experiencing these things as they go along. What is your comment on that? Do you think that will help to get to the bottom of the difficulties that people will normally experience?
Well, so for me, the beauty about a program like this is the fact that it is pragmatic, it's practical.
Yeah.
And so so they're going to talk about the workplace experiences that they had. So everything that you're teaching and what is mirrored in the day-to-day that I am doing. And the place of coaching there is then to get the people to reflect. Talk about reflecting and understand how their being in the workplace, working with a coach, how are they experiencing this? Because coaching gets into your lived experiences, and so it moves beyond the academic. Yes, there will be the theory says this, theory says that, but that aspect that says, am I actually experiencing this in my workplace? If not, why am I not? And then working with a coach to because some people will interpret things differently, and how do you then get the individual to, shall we say, maximize their potential in the workplace? So the practicality of it for me is really where the importance is.
Dolores, in your experience as you work with so many corporates, is the language understood and is the language applied accordingly, properly?
You mean the accountability level?
The language, all these terminologies that we are using. Yeah, I mean, you shared with us that accountability and responsibilities used interchangeably. And then you brought in the concept of ownership, which is a simple English word, but in this context, it needs to be understood for what it is.
Yes. It's the word that usually is used is responsibility. It's usually we hear a word responsibility a lot. And then, as I said, when things don't go right, when the blaming comes in, then they pull accountability into the picture.
Yeah.
However, the three words, responsibility, accountability, and ownership, are the two words that, remember when I gave a simple example at the beginning, and I said responsibility is taking ownership of activities, and accountability is taking ownership of results. So the ownership is always there. The ownership is always there, whether you're a leader, whether you're a team member, whether you take ownership of what you do.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that you do, right? And the overall accountability of the results, it's usually the leaders. That's where in our corporate environment, that's where accountability has been given to the leader. Whether you're a leader as a leadership on a level platform, or whether there's a project and there's somebody leading the project, or whether there's a team and there's somebody leading the team on a deal or something, whatever, you take accountability of the results that's going to come out of all of these activities that people are doing.
So if I'm a manager and my employee has failed to achieve the agreed goals or targets, and I take him to a discussion and I reprimand them. So I'm practicing accountability, or what is it? are back, colleagues. Thank you so much for coming back. You know, give up on technology in this time and era. Internet of Things.
Yeah, yeah. No, we
Yeah, yeah. Welcome back. I'm glad
thank
we could resolve it. It was just there's always a breach, and when that breach of connection collapse, we collapse with it. Right. Yeah, I had just started asking you a cheeky question, if you like,
Mm, mm,
to say that why is it that leaders or managers, when employees have not achieved their targets or milestones, they will call them in and give them tongue lashing if we're saying that the leaders are accountable for the results. Are responsible? Did you say responsible? They are accountable for. They must take ownership for the results, which is accountability.
yes, yes, yes. I think we George eloquently explained that, you know, when the leader is practicing accountability, it's usually over time where these above the line acts of accountability gets practiced all the time. So George spoke about the empowerment, calling the person in if things are not done, checking is there anything you need, empowering, creating feedback loops. All of that happens, you know, getting lessons learned, because that's really part of how you create an accountability culture. Because with time, then people realize that they have got the resources, they've got the support to be able to do the task that they have to do. So by the time they get to the end of the year and they can't do the task, you know, there has been a time really to see, you know, what could be the problem, to address what the problematic areas could have been, you know. But yes, ultimately, at the end of the day, people have to take ownership of their task, and the leader does take accountability. Yeah.
Mm, mm, yeah. So that will be after an effort being made, and
Absolutely.
then when there is no change, then you have to make sure that things are corrected.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you don't pull the trigger very quickly. You take your time, and I think the word used by nowadays is the leader creates psychological safety.
Yes.
And people feel that even if they make a mistake, there's an opportunity to learn and improve.
Correct.
Because the old school way of doing things, one mistake, the hammer is on your head. That's gone now. What we're seeing more and more is creating that psychological safety and ensuring that you get the best out of your employees. Because getting new employees and starting to train and all, that's a lot of time wasted and expense. And so sharpen those that you have, get them to be the best they can be.
Mm, mm. And I assume that there should be obvious benefits of practicing accountability at the workplace.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the benefits of practicing this comes with exactly what we've spoken about with time. The benefit is, firstly, you will have a motivated staff. You will have a motivated team, because they know that they understand their task, they can do their task. They know if they get stuck, they can raise their hand and say, look, I'm stuck, I need help with A, B, C, and D. That psychological safety is there. You've got a team that achieve the goals, because that and fundamentally is the overall of what you do in this business. You have to achieve the goals and achieve the business outcomes and plans that you've put together. A team that is accountable and does this consistently stands 90% or even 100% chance of achieving the business goals. And then there's confidence and happiness all around when that happens.
Mm. Mm.
So it's definitely improved performance,
Mm.
inspiring confidence, as Dolores has said, and improved connections with others. I always found in the workplace that if I worked collaboratively with others and connected well with them, it made my job easier.
Yeah.
And those are benefits that come from accountability.
Mm.
I like the point about confidence and happiness, which we often take it very lightly. I mean, everybody wants to work in a happy workplace.
Yeah. Yeah. If we take ownership of that happiness, we all work towards it,
Yeah.
because we know what it takes to be happy. So we all work towards it. And what I suppose what we're painting here is a very great positive picture. And we're not saying by all means that there aren't barriers to these
Oh,
things
yes.
to happen. There are barriers. If the culture is a very competitive culture and it's about dog eats dog, for lack of a better word, that's where you don't get that collaboration going. You don't get you get people pulling rags out of each other's. It's just a toxic environment that accountability cannot thrive in there.
Mm. So it will be important to be aware of such barriers and deal with them.
Absolutely. To be able to, and as a leader, part of you inculcating that culture of accountability is to also respond quickly to those barriers.
Mm.
Identify those barriers and respond to them quite quickly.
Mm.
Because they are a barrier to your team performing, to your
Yeah.
team they need to do. Yes.
Mm. Mm.
And an interesting point that we haven't really addressed, and which is not really part of it, but I thought I'll just raise it because in the workplace now, you have these different generations, right?
Yes.
Mm.
And therefore the ease with which the message of accountability is received by the various generations talks to how effectively you're going to communicate. You can't communicate with people my age the same way as you would communicate with a 20-year-old. And so the effectiveness of communication becomes even greater
Yeah.
for the leader.
It sounds for me like it's a work in progress. You can never arrive. It's forever work in progress, like you will sustain a culture or improve on ongoing basis.
If we live with the concept of we have arrived, a lot of organizations will not be in the state that they are in right now.
Yeah.
So it is work in progress. We improve, all this continuous improvement.
Yes. So from a coaching point of view, you may want to motivate to the leadership and the team never to get tired, because this is too important to get tired to pursue.
Yeah, and continuous development really it's the way to go. Any organization or individual who says to you, "I've arrived," that's the first sign that says to you, "These guys are in regression now," because you never arrive. You're always learning. I mean, the next question is going to be, what is generative AI going to do? Issues around accountability, and people got to sit up and say, okay, let's think that through.
Yeah.
And so there's always scrutiny. You got to continuously learn.
Yeah. So we are not naive to suggest that this kind of a course can be taught or be trained and used to train the people to understand the concept. But we are not saying that it's a bulletproof. It's going to resolve the problems.
Yeah, it actually is going to be a step towards resolving the problems. If there are those problems, it definitely is a step towards resolving it. There's nothing that really demotivates one like trying to solve a problem that you cannot see.
Yes.
You know, so if there's a problem that is there, it definitely accountability is one step and probably a bigger step towards achieving it. Yeah.
Wow, beautiful. We can talk the entire evening on this topic. I'm really, and I'm glad we have started the discussion, and I don't think it ends here. But I think, despite the technical challenges, I think we've raised quite pertinent issues here. I can only recommend to the listeners to check the course and then maybe engage with us. And the two of you are already ahead, having done so much work on it, and hopefully you can sustain the conversations, even the interventions for us. Any closing remarks from each one of you, please?
Yeah, from me, really, to say any business that doesn't polish this aspect isn't going to succeed very much. You can be lucky and get away with this and that along the way. But if you really get accountability drilled down to the team, your teams, that's a huge competitive advantage. And this is something I would encourage businesses to say, let's get our employees up to speed on this one. Because the more they take ownership, as Dolores has said, the more you are going to see improvement in performances. So yeah, this is brilliant. This project.
Beautiful. Dolores?
Yeah, a mentor of mine 20 years ago taught me a simple model of accountability, which I've used all my life, and it stood me stead. And he said, you know, in terms of accountability, you must see it, own it, solve it, and do it.
Oh,
well,
that's wisdom. There's wisdom there.
Right there.
And this was when I was really starting, just as about to start for my career, and I was now beginning to be in management levels. And he said, that model of accountability is going to stand you and help you achieve and do great things in terms of your own life and the teams where you're going to be working with. So that's what I would like to leave with. And I hope this course will also just kind of give people a sense of their own model that they use and find it beneficial. Definitely.
Indeed. Thank you so much, colleagues. I really appreciate your effort, the time, and also the bravery for being the first in the series of the Business Academy shows, where we put spotlight on these important themes and courses. And I think I see us helping organizations from different angles, from a coaching, mentoring, training, and facilitation perspective, or even holding webinars or conferences and seminars, because I think this is, for me, it's fundamental if we are to really see progress at the workplace and also create clarity for people, because without accountability, as George said, we might not achieve much. Thank you so much. We can't wait for the next Tuesday, the 13th of February, 2024. We are going to be looking at course 2.1, which is building confidence and assertiveness. Wow. That is beautiful indeed, and we can't wait. These are the building blocks, colleagues. I really appreciate your engagement with this journey. It's gonna be beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, the listeners. That was COMESA Business Academy show, and the focus was on the workplace. My guests were George Mutenda Zamera and Mashishi, the members and the friends of COMESA, and of course the business associates of COMESA, executive coaches and business professionals in their own right. They are here, they're not going anywhere. If you want them to be part of engagement at your workplace, you know where to get hold of them here at Cometa, and we shall deliver them to you. Thank you so much, colleagues. The mind, the journey, the destiny. We inform and entertain, develop and educate, empower and support, associate and network. That's the idea. A big thank you to George and Dolores. Goodbye, listeners. Goodbye, colleagues George and Dolores. Yeah.